The sun was setting over Caldwell Creek Ranch, casting a warm orange hue across the sprawling 300-acre property in Montana. Ethan Caldwell, a 45-year-old CEO of Pinnacle Property Management, leaned against the fence of his horse paddock, watching his two Appaloosas graze. His weathered cowboy hat shaded his eyes, and his calloused hands rested on the wood, a stark contrast to the tailored suits he wore in boardrooms. The ranch was his sanctuary, a place to escape the corporate grind and reconnect with the land, Ethan's. Peace was shattered by the crunch of tires on his gravel driveway. A white SUV screeched to a halt, and out stepped Karen Mitchell, the self-appointed enforcer of the nearby Pine Hills HOA. Her blonde bob was pristine, her lips pursed, and her clipboard clutched like a weapon. Karen was notorious in the community for her relentless micromanaging, measuring lawns to the millimeter, issuing fines for unapproved mailboxes, and once calling animal control on a neighbor's pet goat. "Mr. Caldwell," Karen barked, marching toward him. "I've had enough of your blatant disregard for HOA regulations." Ethan tipped his hat, his voice calm but firm. "Miss Mitchell, my ranch isn't part of your HOA. I've told you this before. My property's zoned agricultural, not residential." Karen scoffed, waving her clipboard. "That's irrelevant. Your fence is an eyesore, your horses are a noise nuisance, and that tractor parked by your barn violates aesthetic standards. I'm giving you 48 hours to comply, or I'll escalate this to the authorities." Ethan's jaw tightened. He dealt with Karen's complaints for months, first about his unruly wildflower meadow, then his gravel drive tracking dust onto the paved HOA roads. Each time, he'd politely shown her the county records proving his ranch was exempt from Pine Hills jurisdiction. But Karen's entitlement knew no bounds. "Ma'am," Ethan said, his tone hardening, "you're on private property. I suggest you leave." Karen's face reddened. "You think you're above the rules because you've got a big ranch? I'm calling 911 right now." She whipped out her phone and dialed, her voice rising hysterically. "Yes, hello? There's a man at 472 Caldwell Road threatening me and violating community standards." "Send someone immediately," Ethan sighed, crossing his arms. He dealt with worse in boardrooms, but Karen's theatrics were testing his patience. Within 10 minutes, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up, and Deputy Sarah Reyes stepped out, her expression neutral but sharp. "Evening, folks," Deputy Reyes said, eyeing Karen's clipboard and Ethan's relaxed stance. "What's the issue?" Karen launched into a tirade, accusing Ethan of harassment and endangering the community. Ethan let her rant, then handed the deputy a folder from his truck. "These are my property records, ma'am. My ranch isn't under Pine Hills. HOA, Miss Mitchell's trespassing and wasting your time." Deputy Reyes skimmed the documents, her lips twitching with suppressed amusement. She turned to Karen. "Ma'am, Mr. Caldwell's correct. This property's outside your HOS jurisdiction. I suggest you leave before I cite you for trespassing." Karen sputtered, her face turning purple. "This is outrageous. I'll have your badge for this." "Do you know who I am?" Reyes raised an eyebrow. "I know you're on private property causing a disturbance. Let's go." As Karen stormed back to her SUV, she shouted, "This isn't over, Caldwell. I work for Pinnacle Property Management, and I'll make sure my boss deals with you." Ethan froze, a slow grin spreading across his face. Pinnacle was his company. Karen had no idea he was the CEO or that her supervisor, Maggie Hensley, reported directly to him. He said nothing, watching her peel out, gravel flying the next morning. Ethan sat in his home office, a rustic room lined with books and family photos. He sipped black coffee and dialed Maggie Hensley, Pinnacle's regional manager for Montana. Maggie was a no-nonsense woman who'd worked her way up from receptionist to executive. Ethan trusted her implicitly. "Morning, Ethan," Maggie said, her voice warm. "What's up?" "Got a situation with one of your employees," Ethan replied. "Karen Mitchell. She's on the Pine Hills HOA board and called the sheriff on me last night, claiming my ranch violates their rules. She mentioned she works for Pinnacle and threatened to have her boss deal with me," Maggie groaned. "Karen again? She's been a headache for months. She's in our compliance department, but her attitude's causing problems." clients have complained about her bullying tactics, and she's alienated half her team. I was already considering disciplinary action. Ethan leaned back, staring out at his pasture. She doesn't know I'm the CEO, does she? Nope, Maggie said, chuckling. She's too self-absorbed to connect the dots. Your name's on the company letterhead, but she probably thinks you're just some cowboy. Good, Ethan said. Let's keep it that way for now. I want to see how far she takes this. Can you pull her file and monitor her? If she escalates, we'll handle it. Consider it done, Maggie said. I'll keep you posted. Over the next few days, Karen doubled down. Ethan's neighbor, Tom Wheeler, a retired mechanic who lived on the edge of Pine Hills, stopped by to warn him. That Karen woman's been bad-mouthing you at the HOA meeting, Tom said, sipping a beer on Ethan's porch. Says she's got connections at Pinnacle and you're gonna regret crossing her. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. She's in for a surprise. Sure enough, Maggie called 2 days later. Karen's gone rogue, she said. She emailed the entire compliance team, claiming you're a rogue landowner undermining Pinnacle's reputation. She's demanding we blacklist your ranch from future developments and suggested we lobby the county to rezone your property. Ethan's amusement faded. Karen wasn't just entitled, she was abusing her position. That's a step too far, he said. Set up a meeting with her. I'll come to the office. Time to clear the air. The Pinnacle Property Management office in Bozeman was sleek, with glass walls and mountain views. Ethan walked in wearing his usual jeans and boots, his cowboy hat in hand. Employees glanced curiously, unaware their elusive CEO was in their midst. Maggie greeted him with a grin and led him to a conference room where Karen sat, her arms crossed, a smug smile on her face. Miss Mitchell, Maggie began. We're here to discuss your recent actions regarding a property owner, Ethan Caldwell. Karen rolled her eyes. Good, that man's a menace. I've already drafted a proposal to deal with his violations. Pinnacle needs to take a stand against people like him. Ethan leaned forward, his voice low and steady. Miss Mitchell, do you know who I am? Karen blinked, thrown off. You're that rancher who thinks he's above the law. Maggie stifled a laugh. Ethan slid a business card across the table. Karen picked it up, her eyes skimming the text. Ethan Caldwell, CEO, Pinnacle Property Management. Her face drained of color. That's impossible, she stammered. You're just a cowboy. I'm a cowboy who built this company from the ground up, Ethan said, his tone icy. And you've been using Pinnacle's name to harass me and my neighbors. You've abused your position, alienated clients, and now you're trying to undermine my personal property. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I didn't know. I was just doing my job. Your job doesn't include falsifying complaints or threatening landowners, Maggie cut in. We've reviewed your file. This isn't your first infraction. You've been warned twice about unprofessional conduct. Ethan stood, towering over the table. You called 911 on me, trespassed on my land, and tried to weaponize my own company against me. You're done here. Karen's eyes welled up, but her defiance flared. You can't fire me. I'll sue, I'll go to the press. Try it. Ethan said calmly. Your employment contract has a clear clause on misconduct. And I've got the sheriff's report, your emails, and a dozen neighbors willing to testify about your harassment. Maggie slid a termination letter across the table. You're dismissed, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Karen grabbed her purse and stormed out, muttering threats. Ethan watched her go, feeling a mix of relief and pity. Entitlement like hers was a poison, but he'd given her every chance to back down. A week later, Ethan hosted a barbecue at his ranch for his neighbors, including Tom and Deputy Reyes, who'd become a friend. The HOA board, chastened by Karen's firing, sent a formal apology and promised to revise their policies. Word spread through Pine Hills, and Karen's reign of terror became a cautionary tale. As the sun set, Ethan stood by his fire pit, a beer in hand, watching his community laugh and heal. He built his empire on fairness and hard work, and no clipboard-wielding Karen could take that away.